Well, Karina, welcome to Inbound.
Thank
How has your
you.
experience been so far? You been all right?
Yeah, this has been amazing. I've never been, so I'm like positively overwhelmed. So I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, I was looking at your background and I was specifically like very interested in drafted
Yeah.
and what you did there because I feel like it's something that I've never really seen before
Yeah.
in the media space. So
Yeah.
I've talked with a lot of people that built media businesses from nothing, and I felt like yours was like really special. So
Yeah.
I
I
wanted
would
to
like to think it
understand.
is.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I wanted to understand from you what inspired you to start it and what gaps you saw in the sports media market.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple layers to this. So I would say there's the personal story, which is been a sports fan my whole life. I think sports is so pivotal to our culture as a Latina. I think sports is a great pipeline for young girls in leadership, and so I think there's that personal story that I think is really important to me.
Mm.
As I grew up, I never saw really the commercial messaging really speak to women like me and people like my culture, even though Latinas and Latin culture is such a prominent part of sports and sports fandom.
Oh yeah.
And so I think there's that part of it, which is just like the personal desire of wanting to see something different. But then from a professional background, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 23 years old and had the privilege of running my own PR agency, which was amazing, and really just kind of fell in love with the art of storytelling and more so the impact of storytelling and how story and media really is kind of the catalyst of culture. And I think in doing so and seeing that, it made me realize, we have to be the ones kind of purveying these stories and curating these stories. It has to be people like us. Otherwise, media and popular culture will never catch up. And so when we kind of brought those two things together, my co-founder, Jen, and I really realized that there was just such a need to serve the 30 million and growing Latinas in the United States.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge population
Yeah.
that I feel like no media brand has necessarily like told people that they
Right.
are targeting or
Yeah.
this is for you, like
Yeah.
this is content for you.
Right.
So right, you have this idea, you and your co-founder.
Yeah.
What's the next step? Like how does it go from right? It's an
Prayers
idea
and,
in your head.
yeah. I mean, there's been so many iterations. So to give you a little more context, so
Yeah,
we
sure.
started the company, I think actually this week or next week will be our 2-year anniversary.
Awesome.
And so, I think in doing so, there was a couple of key things that happened. When we looked at how the media ecosystem was kind of going and growing, for us, it was how do we scale as quickly as possible and how do we reach as many people as possible? And that started through social. So we operate social first. All of our story and content lives on Instagram, TikTok first. And then we have a newsletter that's highly subscribed to. And then we take that information and we kind of then create either original IP or branded IP with our partners. And that allows us to have a really curated experience with our audience. But in doing so, I think there's kind of these two layers where you have the power of storytelling and the power of how media is distributed. But then there's the lack of data. And I think that's really important when we look at brand opportunities, when we look at growth opportunities. And so we kind of sit in the middle of creating content, but then also really being these purveyors of data and understanding this consumer better than really anybody because we have that firsthand relationship. So the layers of how it all kind of started was just kind of figuring it out as we went. So we started creating content. We went viral several times, and that allowed us
And
to
that's
learn.
on like drafted channels.
Correct. That's
Yes.
all through social channels, Instagram and TikTok, and that allowed us to kind of start understanding what this consumer really wanted rather than making guesses and telling them this is what they want. We just took a lot of time to listen, and then the data kind of ended up feeding us really good answers, and we continued to learn from there.
Cool. What were like the early content ideas that you put through the pipeline? How have the pages kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, a couple things. So I think at first it was like we really wanted to focus on more of the traditional sports storytelling. So like when you think about something like more ESPN. So
Yeah.
like think about the things that are happening on the field, maybe even the business of sports. And then what we realized is that while that is exciting to our audience, there's so many layers to fandom. And I think because this audience has been so historically underserved, they really sit more on the casual fan than the avid fan. And there are avid fans, in our ecosystem. And so that's when we started kind of tiering into culture. And I think that's really where we found our sweet spot. So we really focus on the culture of sports. So think about fashion, beauty, like family and traditions. And then especially being a Latin media company, a lot about the cultural and the culture elements of our traditions and our heritage. And so I think that's been kind of the fun part where we were really like, let's build something really cool for Latina sports fans. And then we realized, oh, wait, there's such a better and bigger opportunity to really embed Latina sports culture into our content.
Yeah, and I'd say you did a pretty good job of it.
Thank you.
It seems like a lot of people are relating to the
Yeah.
messaging, which is really exciting.
Right.
And how, I guess, have you decided to grow that further? You throw out some things on
Yep.
social media, you make some videos, start
Yeah.
gaining traction. How do you connect with people after that, after they see the video, after they click follow, or after
Yeah.
they engage with your accounts? Kind of what's the next step for them?
That's a great question, and I think that's something that's continuously being evolved. But for us, it was like, how do we test and learn as many things? And now I think we have a pretty good kind of cadence of what we know works and what are the things that we're still curious about. But we took that and we started to kind of create in-person experiences, because I think what we learned is
in-person experiences.
Yeah,
That's
so,
really fun.
And it's been so amazing because it allows us, one, to have a better touch point with our consumer, but then whether you're an avid sports fan or just watching, your team at the Olympics, it's so much more enjoyable, and it means so much more when you're doing it with other people. And so it's really hard to kind of have this community of sports culture in a silo. And so we started to kind of bring those pieces together. I'm based in Los Angeles, so we do things like we'll take a group of 40 to 60 women to a Sparks game or an Angel City game.
Oh, cool.
We'll host watch parties. And now gearing up for the World Cup, we have some really, really cool things that are certainly centering.
Oh my God, is that time already?
Yeah, I mean, soon enough.
Feels like a blur.
Yeah, which we're really excited about, kind of centering fashion, culture, and fandom, all of bringing that in person, because there's just something magical about sports and sharing it with other people.
Yeah, totally. And, I think you're so passionate about this. Like, it's obvious to see. And, you really stand on this mission. And I really appreciate that. I'm just wondering how, I guess, you balance that passion that you have, the community, with monetization, and where that kind of comes in the pipeline, and what you maybe had planned for it to be initially and maybe what it is now.
Great question. So I think monetization is a constantly evolving conversation for us. Because the media ecosystem is constantly evolving. So I think right now we operate really more on a B2B revenue model, almost like the creator world. So, we work with brands and we create original content or sponsored content through our platforms. And that's been really great. And I think what it does is it's been a really great segue, because it allows a brand that never really has had access to this consumer to understand and speak to them really curatedly. And then, of course, it allows us to create better, higher quality content for our audience. And that's been a really great revenue stream for us. But I think from a macro perspective, there's so many other fun ways that we're really exploring on how to kind of diversify that revenue and really more to serve that audience and to give her more access to information, more access to each other. And so, right now we've built out a really great B2B pipeline. I think right now we're starting to have some curiosity and some innovation around B2C, because we have this really highly curated audience that constantly wants more for us. So how do we continue to serve her and keep her excited about what's going on in sports?
Here's what blows my mind. Most people are sitting around waiting for their boss to give them a raise, while millionaires are building income streams in their spare time. Entrepreneur and creator Marina Magilko cracked the code on this. She built more than 10 income streams that now pull in over $100,000 a month. She shared the secret sauce with our team, so now we're sharing it with you, exactly how she did it. This guide gives you practical step-by-step strategies you can actually implement. So just pick just one income stream from her guide and watch what happens. Stop what you're doing right now and grab it in the show notes 6 months from now, and you'll be glad you did. It's a really exciting transition, because I feel like a lot of brands are excited to really narrow in on a certain group of people or a certain audience and really get into that audience. And I feel like you are a great conduit for somebody to do that, because you've developed such a passionate group of people that enjoy sports and are Latina. If someone wanted to build a media brand like yours today, given that it's been about 2 years since you started, what advice would you give them? What did you pick up along the way?
Oh my gosh, don't do it. No, I always say that jokingly. I think we're at such an exciting time when it comes to content, media, creative, however you want to phrase it, because we have more tools than ever to make better content, to have access to more information than ever before. And what's really fun is that people now can get their news through so many different sources. And so I think that makes it more democratized, but also sometimes more competitive, depending on how you look at it. Before, you would open the Sunday newspaper and you would get all of your sports news and you get all of your local news. But now people are really kind of following several different things and are really getting deeper insights on maybe 7 to 8 of their favorite different topics through a curated feed or a curated newsletter.
Yeah.
I would say find the area that you're most interested in, most excited about, because that's how you're going to create the best content and find your community through there, and then constantly learn. And I think what's most exciting for a brand like ours, that's still kind of a challenger brand, is that the content quality doesn't always need to be as high as people think. It's
Sure.
really more about the connection, the authenticity, and kind of filling a gap that maybe no one else is filling.
Yeah.
So I think the world is really your oyster if you're looking to create content, because like anything can really take off at this
Sure.
point.
And, a great point, because I feel like there's a lot of polished content out there that doesn't
Yeah,
perform.
exactly.
Because maybe it's just too nice.
Yeah.
Maybe like the 8K camera is a little
Yeah.
too much.
Right.
And people kind of crave some authenticity nowadays. And last thing I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
is kind of the future you see for sports media. I mean, you touched on it a little bit with, people having like dedicated newsletters, dedicated pages that they follow for specific things that see sports through their lens
Correct.
or communicates to them. Is that what we're going to see more of in the future?
I think we're going to see a couple different things. I think we're going to see more of that. I think there's really fun things happening with sports, particularly because I think now with athletes, especially the collegiate athletes, being able to have access to NIL opportunities.
Yeah, that's right.
I think there's going to be so many layers to the sports media. I think they're going to have more and more athletes actually becoming media leaders, and whether that's because they have a high social following or because now you have people even like Tom Brady producing high quality content.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see more of that, like athlete-led content from the gamut of, college players to some of the best players in the world. So I think there's something really fun about that. And I think having that access to some of your favorite players is really exciting.
It's cool.
And then I think you're going to see, and you're seeing it more and more, is this evolution of sports really being the epicenter of culture. When you think about it, I mean, people watch the Super Bowl not just for the game, but for the commercials and the halftime show.
Exactly.
And so there's this element of music. Now with social and these tunnel fit moments, like there's such an element of fashion. And so I think you're going to see more of this convergence of not just like headlines around sports and what's happening on the field, but really how sports is really integrated into almost everyday culture, from music to fashion to food. And I'm really excited to see how that unfolds with the World Cup, because we're going to not only see this evolution of soccer, football fans kind of coming to the States and really making something really special here, but there is this beautiful intersection with culture and heritage and traditions.
Totally.
So I'm really excited to see more of that kind of coming together, and how the world will embrace how really sports culture shapes culture.
Yeah. Wow, that's a great sum up if I've ever heard one. But thank you so much, Karita.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
been
it's
great
awesome.
hearing from
Yeah.
you, and good luck with everything that you're working on.
I
and
appreciate it.
I hope
It's been
I hope
fun.
you succeed.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's going to do it for us today, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of Hubspot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clarke. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at thehustledaily. We'll catch you later.